I stood at the counter of Riverside National Bank with the silver card pinched between my fingers. It looked out of place here. Too old, too scratched, too forgotten. People around me wore tailored coats and polished shoes. I had one bag and a card that belonged to a man who hadn't breathed in 17 years. The teller, a young man with perfect hair and an overly cheerful smile, greeted me. "Good morning, ma'am. How can I help you today?" I set the card down carefully, almost apologetically. "I'd like to check the balance. It's old. Very old. My husband gave it to me years ago. I don't expect much." He laughed politely, the kind of laugh you give someone who hopes too much. He picked it up, turned it once, then again, eyebrows lifting slightly at the engraving. HM. I watched every movement. When you've lost everything, you become an expert observer. He slid the card through the reader, a small beep, then silence. His smile faded first, then his posture shifted. His shoulders tightened. The color drained out of his cheeks like water slipping out of a cracked glass. He looked at the screen, then at me, then back to the screen. "Ma'am?" His voice cracked. I straightened instinctively. "Yes?" He swallowed. Could you— One moment." He stood up so abruptly, the chair hit the wall. He rushed to the back room, whispering urgently to someone I couldn't see. People in line behind me began to stare. A woman with a stroller pulled her baby closer. An older man leaned in, frowning, like he'd just realized I might be dangerous. Humiliation has a temperature. Mine felt like ice climbing up my spine. The door opened again. A senior banker stepped out. Gray suit, authoritative walk, name tag that read R. Coleman. He scanned the room, spotted me instantly, and approached. "Mrs. Marston?" he asked. "Yes." My voice stayed steady. I made sure of it. He returned the card, placing it gently in my palm like it was something fragile or explosive. "Ma'am, please come with me, now." "Why? Did I do something wrong?" His jaw tightened. "No, but this needs to be handled privately." He lifted the glass partition. 2 security guards appeared at the edge of my vision, subtle, silent, but definitely there. Every customer in the lobby was watching now, some curious, some worried, some judgmental. Nothing makes a woman look more guilty than poverty does. I followed Coleman through a narrow hallway. His footsteps were steady. Mine were not. He ushered me into a small office. Cold air, closed blinds, a computer screen humming softly. He motioned for me to sit. "I'm going to run this again." He slid the card into a different scanner, the kind they use for high-value accounts. A green light pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Coleman leaned forward, eyes fixed on the monitor. I watched his pupils widen, his throat tighten, his hand freeze halfway to the mouse. Then his face went completely white. He checked the screen again, then again. His finger trembled as he refreshed the page. "Mrs. Marston," he said quietly, "when was the last time you used this account?" 17 years ago, I answered, "when my husband died." He exhaled sharply, not relief, shock. "I need to verify something," he said. "Please stay seated." "Sir, what's going on?" He didn't answer. He stepped outside, murmured to someone, closed the door halfway, then returned and sat across from me. His voice dropped to a near whisper. "Before I show you this, I need to ask, are you prepared for whatever is on this screen?" My pulse thudded once, hard. I didn't blink. "Yes, show me." He turned the monitor toward me. Numbers, rows of digits, commas where commas should not be. Too many zeros to belong to someone who slept in a motel 2 nights ago. My breath caught in my throat. Coleman said softly, "Ma'am, this account hasn't been touched in 17 years, but it has been growing, and it is entirely yours." The room tilted. The silver card glinted under the fluorescent light. And right then, that's when I stopped breathing. 3 days before the bank, I found myself standing on the front steps of the house Henry built, my house for 30 years, holding one suitcase. My son opened the door. David filled the doorway like a guard, blocking someone unwelcome. "Mom," he began, voice stiff, "we need to talk." I studied his face first, tight jaw, avoiding eye contact, guilt covered with fake firmness. Then I saw her behind him. Nora, arms crossed, chin lifted, wearing my cardigan like she owned the place. David cleared his throat. This isn't working anymore." I kept my tone even. "What isn't?" "You living here," he muttered. I didn't react, just looked at him until he had to look away. "So you're kicking me out of your father's house?" "It's my house now," he shot back too quickly. "Dad left it to me." I watched his left hand. It trembled. A tell. He wasn't telling me his decision. He was obeying hers. Nora stepped forward, voice syrup sweet. "Helen, we just need space. We're starting our own life. You've been here a long time." A long time. 30 years apparently counted as too long. I answered, calm as a scalpel. "Your own life started the day Henry died, not today." Nora blinked, thrown off for 1 second before plastering the fake smile back on. "That's not fair. We're not trying to hurt you." David repeated the line immediately. "We're not trying to hurt you, Mom." He didn't even realize he was echoing her word for word. I stepped forward until I stood eye level with him. "Say it again. But this time, say it like you mean it." His mouth opened, then closed. Silence. Exactly. Nora slid between us, gently touching his arm like she was comforting a scared child. "Helen, we just want privacy. That's all." I pointed at the living room behind them. My furniture had been pushed into a corner, my framed photos dumped in a cardboard box. 2 garbage bags filled with things I had bought sat by the window. "You already started without me," I noted. Nora shrugged. "We thought it would be easier this way." David swallowed hard. "Mom, please, just go." There it was, not softened, not phrased nicely, just raw, plain dismissal. I kept my voice steady. "No discussion? No warning?" "We talked about it," he insisted. "You two talked about it," I corrected. He flinched. The porch light flickered on automatically, illuminating all 3 of us, and half the neighborhood watching. Mrs. Clark across the street stopped watering her plants. Mr. Torres slowed his dog walk to a crawl. A teenager even pulled out his phone to record before his mother smacked it down. Humiliation is most effective when you're forced to stand still for it. I lifted the suitcase. "You're really choosing her over your own mother." David stiffened. "That's not what this is." "Say it isn't," I replied. He didn't. Nora slid her hand over his. "Helen, let's not make this ugly." "You already did," I answered. That wiped the smile off her face. David opened the door wider, an unmistakable signal. He didn't say the words, but his body said everything. I stepped outside. The air hit colder than it should have. My suitcase wheels scraped the wood step as it rolled behind me. David didn't follow. He didn't even wait until I stepped off the porch. The door closed, not slammed, just a clean, final click. And that click felt louder than any argument we'd had in years. Behind the curtain, Nora watched openly, arms still crossed, satisfied. She mouthed something. I read her lips easily. Finally. Not goodbye. Not take care. Finally. 5 neighbors stood outside now, pretending to tend to their flowers, their mail, their fences, anything that let them stare. One woman whispered, "Is that her? His mother?" Another answered, "They kicked her out, poor thing." I didn't move my head, but I heard every word. I tightened my grip on the suitcase and walked down the path. At the sidewalk, Mrs. Clark hurried up beside me. "Helen, what happened? Are you okay? Tell me if—" "I'm fine," I cut in, clear and controlled. I didn't owe her my pain or my story. She stepped back, embarrassed. I kept walking. The suitcase wheels squeaked once every few steps. Steady, predictable, unlike the people I'd just left behind. When I reached the corner, I paused, not to look back, but to confirm something. I felt nothing for that house anymore. Not attachment, Not grief, just clarity. David chose convenience over loyalty. Nora chose victory over decency, and I chose to walk away before I forgot who I was. I turned left and headed toward the cheap motel at the edge of town. 3 days later, I walked into Riverside National Bank with Henry's silver card. Everything that came next made being thrown out look small, because humiliation was only the beginning. The motel room wasn't much, just a bed, a noisy air conditioner, and a lamp that flickered every few seconds. I closed the door behind me and set my suitcase on the bed. This was all I had left. One suitcase, $48, and a body that felt 10 years older after sleeping in the car. I sat down and opened the suitcase. Clothes, 2 pairs of socks, a small bag of toiletries. Nothing worth anything. I checked my wallet. $48. I stared at the bills for a long moment. "Well," I muttered, "that'll last me another day." I reached for my jacket to hang it on the chair. When I lifted it, something inside the inner pocket made a small crinkling sound. I stopped. I reached inside. My fingers closed around an envelope. I pulled it out slowly. It was old, yellowed, the edges soft from years of being moved around. I had no memory of putting it there. Then I saw the handwriting. Henry's. "For Helen, when you truly need it." My stomach dropped. I sat down again. I opened the envelope carefully. Inside was the silver card Henry had given me years ago. The same card I had forgotten even existed. For a second, I just stared at it. It looked out of place in this cheap room. There was also a folded note inside. I opened it. Henry's handwriting again. "Helen, keep this. Use it only when you must." That was all. No long message, no explanation. Henry never used 10 words when 3 were enough. I held the card in my hand. It was cool and solid. I turned it over and traced the small letters HM engraved in the corner. Memories came back. Henry standing in our kitchen, handing it to me with that serious look. "One day this will matter," he told me. I had laughed. He didn't. I looked around the motel room again, the peeling wallpaper, the stained carpet, the air conditioner rattling like it was dying. If there was a moment that counted as truly need it, this was it. I placed the card on my lap and rubbed my forehead. "Henry," I murmured, "what did you do?" The lamp flickered again. I ignored it. I unfolded the note once more. Simple words, simple man. But Henry didn't do things without a reason. I shut the suitcase, pushed it aside, and sat up straighter. No panic, no crying, just thinking. $48 left, no home, no plan, and a son who'd told me to leave like I was a burden he couldn't wait to get rid of. Fine. I stood up and paced the small room. My steps were slow, steady. I needed a direction, and the card gave me one. Whatever Henry had left, whatever this was about, I would find out. I grabbed my phone and checked the nearest Riverside National Bank branch. 6 blocks away, a 20-minute walk. Good. I sat back down on the bed and held the card again. The metal caught the weak light from the lamp and reflected it in a small, sharp line. "He said this card would matter," I muttered. Then I shook my head. I never believed him. I placed the card inside the envelope, but I didn't seal it. I wanted it close. Through the thin walls, someone argued loudly. A baby cried in the next room. A door slammed outside. I didn't react. This place wasn't meant to be permanent. It was a stop, nothing more. I lay back on the bed for a moment and stared at the ceiling. The motel smelled like cleaning spray and old smoke. But none of that mattered now. Tomorrow morning, I'd walk into the bank and hand them Henry's card, and whatever he left behind, the truth, the money, the reason, I'd deal with it head on. No drama, no fear, just action. I sat up again, picked up the envelope, and held it against my chest for a second. Not out of emotion, but out of certainty. "This better be something, Henry," I whispered, "because I'm fresh out of options." I set the envelope beside the bed, turned off the lamp, and lay down. The room was quiet except for the rattling air conditioner, but it didn't bother me. I had enough to get through tonight. I had a direction for tomorrow. And for the first time since David pushed me out that door, I felt something steady inside me. Not hope, just resolve. The card was still on the nightstand. I reached over and touched its edge in the dark. "All right," I breathed quietly. "Let's see what you left me, Henry." Then I closed my eyes and waited for morning. Morning light came in through the thin curtains and hit my face. I hadn't slept much, but I didn't feel tired. I got up, washed my face in the small sink, and put on the same jacket from the night before. The envelope with Henry's card stayed in the inside pocket. I checked it twice to make sure it was still there. I grabbed my bag and stepped outside. The motel parking lot was almost empty. A few cars. A man smoking near the ice machine. Nothing unusual. The air was cold and sharp. It helped me think. Riverside National Bank was 6 blocks away. I started walking. The sidewalk was cracked, old gum spots everywhere. I passed a convenience store, a laundromat, and a bus stop with 2 teenagers arguing about something I couldn't hear. I kept going. Every step felt steady. Not rushed, not nervous, just steady. People in business clothes rushed past me once I got closer to downtown, phones in their hands, coffee cups. Every one of them looked like they had somewhere important to be. I blended in by not looking around too much. When I reached the corner before the bank, I stopped for a second. The building was big, glass front, high ceiling, clean steps. Exactly the kind of place Henry always liked. Not flashy, just solid. I looked at my reflection in one of the big windows. Older, tired, but not broken. I adjusted my jacket and kept walking. At the top of the steps, I pulled the door open. It was heavy, the kind of door that makes you push harder than you expect. Inside, the air was warm and clean. The floor was polished. People stood in neat lines. A security guard near the entrance nodded at me politely. I nodded back. A woman at the reception desk looked up with a practiced smile. "Good morning. Can I help you?" "I need to check an old account," I replied. "Legacy account, I think." She paused, looked at the envelope in my hand, and pointed to the far right counter. "Please see Mr. Coleman. He handles all legacy desks." I followed the direction of her hand. Mr. Coleman was older, maybe early 60s, with neat gray hair and glasses that slid down his nose when he looked down to read. He gave off the same quiet, steady vibe Henry had when he worked. I walked up to the counter. He looked up immediately. "Good morning. How can I assist you today?" I took the silver card out of the envelope and placed it on the counter. "I want to check the balance on this." He reached for it carefully, almost like he already understood it was something particular. He turned it over once, examined the engraved initials, then looked back at me. "Is this yours?" "It belonged to my husband," I answered. "He passed years ago. He told me to use it one day. I don't know if it even works." He nodded slowly. "Let me take a look." He inserted the card into the reader. The machine beeped once. He glanced at the screen. Something in his expression changed. Not confusion, not annoyance, just stillness. He blinked once, leaned closer, and checked the screen again. His jaw tightened a little. I watched him. I didn't say anything. He drew in a breath, lifted the small gate at the side of the counter, and spoke quietly. "Ma'am, can you step inside for a moment?" I looked at him straight. "Is there a problem?" His voice lowered. "Please, right this way." That was all I needed to hear. I followed him behind the counter. People standing in line turned their heads. A woman holding a baby watched me with concern. A man with a briefcase whispered something to the person next to him. I ignored all of it. Behind the counter, Mr. Coleman opened a door marked Private. The hallway was quiet. The carpet was clean. The lights were bright, but not harsh. He motioned for me to walk ahead. "Is something wrong with the card?" I asked as we walked. "I need to verify a few things," he replied. "You'll want to sit down for this." We stepped into a small office, neat desk, one computer. 2 chairs. He gestured toward the chair opposite his desk. I sat. He sat down slowly, typed something into the computer, and stared at the screen. His face stayed blank, but his eyes shifted twice, like he was rechecking numbers. The room felt still. not tense, just waiting. After a moment, he turned the monitor slightly away from me, straightened his glasses, and cleared his throat. "I need to confirm your identity," he said. I nodded once. "All right. Driver's license, please." I handed it to him. He checked every detail, compared it to the screen, then returned it. "What's your date of birth?" I answered. "Mother's maiden name?" I answered. "Your husband's full name?" "Henry Marston." That made him pause. He looked up at me carefully, then back at the screen. His tone softened a little, not friendly but respectful. "Mrs. Marston, I'm going to show you something, but I need you to stay calm." I kept my eyes on him. "I'm calm." He turned the screen slowly toward me. Before I could fully see it, he whispered, almost under his breath, "This account, it hasn't been touched for 17 years. I leaned forward, and then I saw the number. The breath left my chest, but not because of shock, because I finally understood Henry. The bank smelled like old carpet and cold air. I handed Mr. Coleman the silver card and kept my eyes on his hands. They were steady, practiced, like someone who'd handled thousands of cards in his life. Mine just happened to be the oldest one he'd ever seen. "Let's take a look," he murmured, sliding it into the reader. I watched his face, not the screen. People tell the truth with their eyes long before their mouths open. At first, nothing changed. Then his jaw locked. The muscles under his cheek twitched. His glasses slipped down his nose, and he didn't bother to push them back. He stared at the monitor like it had punched him. "Mr. Coleman?" My voice stayed even. No panic. No excitement, just pressure. He didn't move, not even a blink. When he finally inhaled, it came sharp, like cold water hitting skin. "Ma'am, could you step around the counter for a moment?" That was not a request. It was the kind of tone bankers used when something big hit the screen. A woman behind me whispered, "What's going on?" Another person muttered, "Must be fraud." I didn't flinch. Mr. Coleman lifted the small gate for me. His hand shook as he motioned me through. Security noticed. Both guards straightened, watching us closely. He led me to a small office near the back. Bright light, closed door, no distractions. As soon as we sat, he asked, "Driver's license?" I handed it over. He checked it against something on the screen with a seriousness I'd only seen doctors use when delivering diagnoses. "Confirm your date of birth. Full legal name. Mother's maiden name. Your father?" "Henry Marston," I answered firmly. He typed the name slowly, almost cautiously. The screen refreshed. Whatever he saw made him lean back, stunned. "Mrs. Marston, do you understand what this card is tied to?" "I understand it belonged to my late husband. That's why I'm here." He exhaled through his nose, long and controlled. "Your husband didn't leave you a card, ma'am. He left you a structure." "What structure?" He turned the monitor slightly toward me, but kept one hand covering part of the screen like he wasn't sure I was ready for the number. "This account is connected to an irrevocable trust, established by Henry Marston 18 years ago, locked, protected, and designed specifically for you." My pulse didn't spike. I'd learned long ago that reacting fast never helped anyone. "What's in it?" A simple question. Direct. Mr. Coleman swallowed. That alone made the room feel smaller. "Before we get to that, you need to know something." His tone dropped, steady and serious. 3 months ago, someone tried to access this account. My spine stiffened. "Who?" "They used your name, your social security number, but it wasn't you." "David." I didn't speak the name, but the thought cut clean. Mr. Coleman continued. "The attempt was denied, the account was flagged, and the trust locked itself down tighter. That's why the system reacted the moment I swiped the card." His fingers finally moved away from the balance on the screen. "Mrs. Marston, look." I leaned in. It took me a second to process the zeros, another second to understand that the number wasn't glitching. My husband, Henry, the quiet man who saved receipts and reused coffee jars, had left $28.4 million sitting untouched under my name. I didn't gasp. I didn't blink fast. I just breathed once and locked the information in place. Mr. Coleman kept watching me like he expected me to faint. "Are you all right?" "I've been doing all right on $48. I can handle this." He let out a short breath that almost sounded like disbelief. "Mrs. Marston, this is one of the cleanest, most well-protected trusts I've ever seen. Your husband structured it so no one, not a spouse, not creditors, not your son, could touch a single penny." "Henry always prepared for storms," I replied, "not sunshine." Mr. Coleman nodded slowly. "He did more than prepare. He shielded you. And judging by this system flag, he shielded you from your son." My jaw tightened. David tried to access it? He tried to find it. That's why the system alerted us. Of course he did. My son threw me out the same week the attempt was logged. Pattern clear. I sat up straighter. "What happens now?" "Now," Mr. Coleman said carefully, "you get to decide how you want to move. But I strongly recommend a trust and estate attorney, someone who knows how to protect beneficiaries from family interference. I'll need the best." He slid a card across the desk. "This one doesn't play games." I took it without hesitation. Then I looked at the monitor one last time. The number didn't scare me. What scared me was how close I'd come to never knowing. Henry had built a fortress around me. David had tried to break in. Now it was my turn. "Mr. Coleman," I said quietly, "freeze the account until my lawyer contacts you." His eyebrows rose. "Immediately?" "Immediately." He typed a command so fast his keyboard clicked like a warning. Then he stood. "Mrs. Marston, whatever comes next, you're in a stronger position than you realize." "I know." And I walked out of that office with a calm I hadn't felt in years, not because of the money, but because for the first time since David threw me out, I had leverage. Mr. Coleman walked me to a quieter corner of the bank, a glass-walled conference room that felt too bright for news this heavy. He carried a stack of printed documents, each page clipped neatly. He didn't speak until the door shut. "Mrs. Marston, you need to understand how extraordinary this is." "I'm listening." And he opened the first folder and turned it toward me. The name at the top stopped me. My husband's handwriting was visible in the margins, small, neat corrections. He always fixed things quietly. Mr. Coleman tapped a paragraph. "Your husband negotiated a profit-sharing contract, not a one-time sale." I kept my expression flat. "Explain it simple." "He owned a piece of land decades ago. The developers couldn't complete their project unless he agreed to sell. Instead of cash, your husband chose a percentage, 5% of net profit for as long as the complex generates income." I looked at the numbers below. Columns of deposits, years of growth, every line a reminder of who Henry really was. "Why didn't anyone know?" I asked. "Because he hid it," Mr. Coleman replied. "Legally, completely. He transferred the entire agreement into an irrevocable trust with you as the sole beneficiary. He never touched a dollar? Not one." Of course he didn't. Henry fixed neighbors' boilers for free. Henry left tips bigger than the bill. Henry saved every spare cent, but lived like money didn't belong to him. I steadied my breath. "Show me the trust terms." Mr. Coleman flipped to another page. "Here, Clause 7. This is the important one." I read it silently. "No spouse, child, relative, or creditor may access these funds. No court order or divorce decree may transfer ownership. The beneficiary is sole owner, Helen Marston." My jaw tightened. He really thought of everything. Mr. Coleman cleared his throat softly. "Most people don't understand trusts. They think marriage means shared assets. Your husband made sure this one never could be." "David didn't know that," I muttered. "Your son suspected there was something," Mr. Coleman confirmed. "That's why he tried to access your records 3 months ago." "And that's why he pushed me out of the house last month," I added, connecting the timeline. "He wanted the money before I could find it." Mr. Coleman didn't comment, but his silence was enough. I leaned forward. "Tell me the part you're holding back." He hesitated, then pulled out a final sheet, one with Henry's signature bold and confident. Your husband added an unusual clause to activate only if the trust detected a fraudulent access attempt. My brows pulled together. What kind of clause? Mr. Coleman slid the page to me. I read it twice. Then I looked up at him. This says the trust locks itself, notifies the bank, and forces a full audit of anyone who attempted access. Exactly. It also allows the beneficiary, you, to trigger legal action if you choose. So Henry built a trap. A protective measure, Mr. Coleman corrected. But, yes, essentially a trap. I leaned back in my chair, controlled, steady. Inside, everything clicked into place. David didn't throw me out because he was angry. He threw me out because he got caught. He wasn't trying to punish me. He was trying to get rid of the only person blocking him from millions. I tightened my grip on the folder. Mr. Coleman, I'm going to need copies of every page. They're already printing. His efficiency almost made me smile. A soft knock came at the door. A younger banker slipped in, dropped a stack of documents, nodded, and left. He couldn't hide the way he stared at me. They always stare when they smell money. Mr. Coleman straightened the stack. Mrs. Marston, you're in a highly favorable position, but you need a lawyer specialized in trust protection. If your son becomes aware you've accessed the account, he'll come after me. My voice didn't shake. He's already done that once. Mr. Coleman folded his hands. The attorney I recommended is the best in the state. He's discreet. I tucked the business card into my purse. I'll call him today. Before leaving, I asked one more question. Why did Henry keep this secret from me, Mr. Coleman didn't rush his answer. Some men save for retirement. Some save for emergencies. Your husband saved for you. He paused, then added quietly, he knew love doesn't always protect people. Sometimes money does. I nodded. Not emotional, just understanding. As I walked out of the office, the bank lights reflected off the silver card inside my purse. Henry's card. Henry's plan. Henry's warning. David had tried to steal what he didn't earn. Now he had no idea I knew everything, and I intended to keep it that way, at least until the moment hurt the most. Mr. Coleman pushed the file toward me. Mrs. Marston, your husband prepared everything. I opened the folder. My name was on every page. My signature, Henry's signature, date stamped, witnessed, filed. Coleman tapped one line with a steady finger. This is an irrevocable trust. Once he created it, no one could alter it, not even you. I kept my eyes on the line. Meaning? Meaning the assets inside it belong to you alone, permanently. I didn't move. And David? Excluded. My jaw tightened the smallest bit. By law? By law, Coleman confirmed. Your son cannot touch this. Not today. Not ever. I closed the folder slowly. So Henry locked it before he died. He protected you, Coleman replied. That was his intention. I ran my thumb along the edge of the trust papers. Everything was clean, legal, airtight. Coleman continued. This is why the balance kept growing. No one had access. Not your son, not your daughter-in-law, not creditors, not the court. Only you. I breathed once, steady, controlled. And the land contract? Part of the trust, he answered. He transferred all rights into it 17 years ago. The income, the shares, the profit streams, all of it flows here. The edges of the papers caught the light. Henry planned every angle. Coleman leaned forward. Your husband understood risk. He kept this safe because he anticipated complications. Complications like my son. He hesitated. I didn't want to say it, but yes. I lifted my eyes. You can. Coleman nodded once. I set the papers aside. Show me the protective clauses. He flipped to page 11. Clause 4C. If anyone attempts to use your information to access the account, the system flags it, automatically, and you receive priority protection. So Henry expected someone to try. Correct. A short silence fell between us. Coleman broke it first. "Mrs. Marston, your husband's foresight is exceptional. I rarely see trusts built this carefully." I pressed the silver card against my palm. He knew how our son thinks. Coleman exhaled. "There's another part you need to see." He turned to the final section of the document. This provision states that, in the event of fraud or forced access attempts, the bank must notify law enforcement, your counsel, and you. Immediately. My eyes narrowed a fraction. Forced access attempts? Yes, including using your identity without permission. I leaned back. So the system is already watching him. Coleman's voice lowered. "Mrs. Marston, this is why I called you behind the counter. The moment I scanned that card, all the alerts fired at once." That clicked into place. "Now you understand the reaction," he added. "I do," I answered quietly. I gathered the papers. "Tell me something, Mr. Coleman." He straightened. "Of course. If my son believes he has a right to this, is there any legal path for him?" "No," he replied instantly. "None. Not through probate, not through marriage, not through claims of dependency or caretaking. The trust design is final." "Good." Coleman paused, studying me for a moment. "You're very calm, Mrs. Marston. I've been underestimated before." His expression shifted, respect mixed with caution. "Then you'll want to be prepared. Families tend to react strongly when trusts like this surface." "David already made his move," I answered. "He'll make another." Coleman folded his hands. "And you'll be protected." I picked up the silver card. The weight felt different now, heavier, defined, intentional. "This was his last safeguard," Coleman said softly. "Your husband loved you in a very structured way." I didn't smile. "He loved me with logic. It kept me alive." Coleman nodded. "I'll make copies of everything. You'll need to take these to your attorney." "I'll arrange it." Right before I stood, Coleman added one last thing. "Mrs. Marston, I'm obligated to tell you this. The trust logs show an unauthorized inquiry 3 months ago." My head lifted. "By who?" "Your son." His voice lowered. "He tried once, quietly. That's when the first flag appeared." My fingers wrapped tighter around the card. "And you stopped it." "The system stopped it," he corrected. "But yes, we denied the request." I held his gaze. "Thank you." Coleman straightened the file. "You'll need legal support. I'll connect you with the attorney our private clients use." "Do that." I walked toward the door. "Helen," he called gently. I turned. "Your husband didn't leave you money," he said. "He left you protection." My reply was calm, simple, final. He knew who I was married to, and he knew who I raised. I stepped out of the room, silver card in hand, ready for the next blow. I left the private room with the trust papers under my arm. My phone vibrated the moment the bank doors closed behind me. "Julian Pierce." I answered immediately. "Talk." "Helen, we just received something," Julian pressed. "The bank flagged an attempted access 30 minutes before you walked in." A cold stillness settled in my chest. "From where?" "Haledale Office Suites, Unit 307, he continued. "Registered to one person, Nora Hale." My jaw locked. "She used my information?" "Your full name, your social security number, even your date of birth." I kept walking, steps steady. "She did it alone?" "No," Julian replied. "Your son placed an inquiry right after. He claimed you gave him permission." "Permission for what?" "To manage the trust on your behalf. He called you confused and overwhelmed." I stopped at the curb. Cars passed. People walked by. Everything felt quiet. "Repeat what he told them." Julian didn't hesitate. "He stated you were not in a state to make sound financial decisions." A slow breath left my lungs. "Send me the logs," I instructed. "Already did. Helen, this is coordinated. They're testing defenses." "They'll get an answer soon enough." Julian paused. "Do you want to escalate?" I can initiate legal action tonight." "Not yet," I replied. "I want to see how desperate they get." There was a beat of silence. Then Julian added, "Henry designed this trust for a reason. You're seeing it now." "I understand," I murmured. I ended the call and walked toward the motel. When I entered my room, my phone buzzed again. "David," I answered without sitting. His voice came fast, nervous, pushing. "Mom, where are you? We need to talk." "No, you need to explain." "What are you talking about?" he snapped. "You contacted the bank using my identity." A pause, short, sharp. "That's not what happened." "You told them I'm confused," I continued, "that I can't handle my money." "I was trying to help you," he pushed back. "You're acting strange. Nora noticed it too." "Nora noticed," I repeated calmly. "Interesting." "You don't understand what you're doing," he shot back. "You shouldn't be handling Dad's finances alone." "Dad's finances?" My tone dropped. "Your father left me those assets, legally, irrevocably." "That trust should have been for the family," he argued. "You're going to waste it, Mom." "You mean it isn't going to you?" His breath hitched. "You're being unfair." "No, David," I corrected. "I'm being accurate." He went silent for a second. Then, "You're making this difficult. Nora and you rented an office," I cut in. "She used my information from there." He froze. I heard it. "You should be grateful," he stammered. "We were trying to protect you." "Protect me," I repeated. "From what? My own name?" His tone grew sharper. "Mom, this isn't a game. That kind of money needs management. And you think you're qualified?" "I'm your son," he shouted. "That alone should mean something." "It does," I replied flatly. "It means I know exactly what you're capable of." His breathing turned rough. "If you keep this up, you're going to regret it." I didn't raise my voice. "You crossed the line the moment you touched my Social Security number." He muttered curses under his breath. "You always believed Dad more than me. You always picked him. And he picked me again," I countered, "even after he died." "Mom," I ended the call. The phone rang again before I could put it down. "Mr. Coleman," I answered. "Yes." "Helen, I need to make you aware of something," he began, voice tight but controlled. "Your son called again. He attempted to change the emergency contact on your file." "To who?" "Nora Hale." I stared at the wall. Calm. "And you denied it." "Immediately," Coleman confirmed. "But that attempt will be documented permanently. It strengthens your legal standing." "Good." "Helen, this is a pattern. Someone wants access, desperately." "I'm aware." "I'm advising you to speak with Mr. Pierce tonight," he continued, "and consider placing a temporary freeze on all external inquiries." "I'll handle it." Before hanging up, Coleman added, "Your husband designed this trust to shield you from exactly this kind of situation." "I know," I replied, "and he was right." I ended the call. The room went quiet. 3 attempts in one day, back to back, and all with my identity. I picked up Henry's silver card from the nightstand. The edges were cold. 17 years ago, Henry protected me from a future he predicted long before I ever saw it coming. I closed my hand around the card. Then I called Julian. "Helen?" he answered on the first ring. "We escalate," I stated. "Draft everything." A beat. Understood. We moved to the next phase. He didn't argue. "I'll prepare the filings." I ended the call. The trust was sealed, the shield was up, and my son had just declared war. I had barely set the phone down when pounding exploded on the motel door. 3 hits, hard. Then my son's voice, loud enough for the entire hallway to hear. "Open the door, Mom!" I didn't move. Another hit. "You can't hide in there! Open it!" I stepped forward and looked through the peephole. David stood outside, face red, hair a mess, breathing like he'd sprinted across town. A couple in the hallway slowed down to watch. Perfect. I opened the door halfway, just enough for him to see my eyes. He stormed forward, trying to push the door wider, but I blocked it with one hand. He froze. My voice stayed low, sharp, steady. "What do you want?" "You know what I want," he threw back. "We're done playing around. That money belongs to family." I kept the door exactly where it was. "You don't get to say the word family after what you did." He pointed a finger in my face. "You think you're doing something smart? You're not. You're being manipulated. That banker, that lawyer—" "Stop," I cut him off. "You're embarrassing yourself." His jaw clenched. "Mom, you're going to give me access. You have to. I'm your son." "I have to?" My tone didn't move an inch. "Explain that to me, slowly, so I can hear every part of the stupidity." He blinked, thrown off for a moment. "I'm talking about fairness. Dad would have wanted—" "Don't use your father's name," I snapped quietly. "You lost that right when you filed fake access requests in mine." His voice jumped. "I was trying to help you." "No," I corrected him. "You were trying to rob me." A woman 2 doors down stepped out to throw away trash. She stopped to watch. David noticed and grew louder. "You're making me look bad, Mom." "You're doing that on your own. You're twisting everything," he barked. "Nora and I were fixing things for you." "You used my social security number," I shot back. "You told the bank I was mentally declining. You tried to replace my emergency contact with your wife. Tell me, where in that list should I feel helped, David?" His lips tightened. He couldn't answer. I opened the door another inch, not for him, but for the audience gathering behind him. "You came to this motel to intimidate me," I continued, "but you forgot something." He tried to steady himself. "And what's that?" "You don't scare me." He flinched. I stepped out into the hallway, forcing him to take 1 step back. He looked around, suddenly aware of eyes on him. "Mom, lower your voice. I'm not the one yelling at a motel door." His face turned bright red. "Stop doing this. Let's talk inside." "No," I replied. "Nothing you say behind a closed door is worth hearing." He pushed forward again, lowering his voice but raising his aggression. "You owe me, Mom." I stared at him. "For what?" "For raising me," he blurted. "For everything I gave this family." I didn't blink. "You raised yourself? You built this family? Tell me exactly what you contributed. I'll wait." His mouth opened and closed. Silence. He had nothing. I didn't give him time to recover. "Your father worked. I worked. You lived comfortably. That's not contribution, David. That's consumption." His nostrils flared. "You know what? I don't care. I'm done asking nicely. And I'm done pretending you're the victim in your own mess." He stepped closer. "Give me the access, right now." "No." He inhaled like he was about to shout again, but I raised 1 finger. "Think carefully. You're in a public hallway. You're already breaking the law by harassing me, and this place has cameras." That landed. Hard. His eyes flicked to the ceiling. The little black dome hung right above him. I lowered my voice even more. "Take 1 more step, and you won't be dealing with me. You'll be dealing with Julian Pierce." His throat moved. "Why are you doing this?" "I'm not doing anything," I answered. "You did this. You and your wife." He looked away. "David, listen carefully," I continued. "You had a choice. You could have come to me like a son. You chose to come to me like a thief." He tried 1 last angle. "We just wanted a future." "Then earn one." His shoulders sagged. The fight drained from his face. Right on cue, 2 security guards turned the corner. Motel management must have called them about the yelling. 1 guard approached. "Ma'am, is everything okay?" I didn't even look at David when I answered. "He's leaving." The guard turned to him. "Sir, you need to follow us out." David's voice cracked. "Mom, don't do this. You did this to yourself," I replied. The guard placed a hand on his arm. David jerked away, but he didn't fight. He knew he couldn't. "Mom, please, just talk to me." I stepped back inside my room. Before closing the door, I gave him 1 final line. Cold, clean, Unforgettable. You wanted everything, David, and tonight you got what you earned. The guard led him down the hallway. I closed the door. Silence. Henry's silver card glimmered on the nightstand. I sat on the motel bed after the confrontation with David. The hallway noise faded. My breathing finally evened out. Then the phone lit up. Martha, my sister. Perfect timing. Envy always knows when to call. I let it ring once, twice. The third ring came with a text. "Pick up. I know everything." I answered. Her voice blasted through the speaker. "Helen, so it's true. You hit the jackpot and didn't think to tell your own sister?" I closed my eyes. "Who told you?" "People talk," she snapped. "Small town, big mouths, don't play stupid." I leaned back against the headboard. "You rarely call me, so let's skip the warm-up." "You owe me an explanation," she pressed. "Why is all that money under your name?" "Because Henry put it there," she scoffed, loudly. "Oh, how convenient. The perfect husband left you millions and left me nothing." "That's what happened." "You expect me to believe that?" Martha barked. "You expect me to believe he didn't leave anything to his own family?" "He wasn't your husband," I replied flatly. "You always thought you were better than the rest of us," she fired back. "And now look at you, money falling in your lap while I'm working 2 jobs just to stay afloat." "That isn't my fault." "It is your fault," she snapped. "Dad favored you. Henry favored you. Everyone favored you. And now you get millions? No, that's not right." I let her rant. I didn't interrupt. I'd heard versions of this speech my entire life. Finally, she paused. Then her tone changed. Colder, more calculated. "You're going to give me a portion." "No." She laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "You didn't even think about it?" "No," I repeated, steady and unapologetic. "I'm your sister." I kept my tone even. "And?" A gasp shot through the phone. "And? That's all you have to say?" "You never cared about me," I continued. "You called only when you needed something. You disappeared when I needed someone. We haven't had a real conversation in years." "That doesn't matter," she shouted. "This is family money." "It's Henry's money, and he made a choice." "Of course he made a choice," she sneered. "He always liked you more. Everyone always liked you more." I rubbed my forehead. "Martha, listen." "No," she cut me off. "You listen. I deserve something. I've worked harder than you my entire life." "That isn't true." "It is true," she snapped. "You had a husband who gave you everything. I didn't. And that's somehow my responsibility?" "Yes." The word tore out of her like a wound. "Yes, because you always got the easy road, the attention, the help, the support. And now you're sitting on millions while I'm struggling? No, no, Helen, you're not doing this to me." I sighed quietly. "Martha," I said, "I'm not sharing the trust." "You selfish witch," she exploded. "After everything I've gone through, after dragging myself through life, you should want to help me." "Help is earned," I answered, "not demanded." She went silent, shocked. Then the venom returned. "So that's who you are now, rich, arrogant, cold." "Cold?" I repeated. "Maybe, but I learned it from you." Her breath hitched. She didn't expect that. I continued, calm, unwavering. "You were jealous before I had anything. Money just gave you a new excuse." "Helen, don't you dare talk to me like—" "I'm done," I cut in. "Henry made his intentions clear. I'm respecting them. That's final." "You don't get to decide what's final." "I just did." She spat out one last line. "You're dead to me." "That's convenient," I replied. "You haven't been in my life for years." Her breath came hard, furious. "I hope you choke on that money," she hissed. "I hope it destroys you." I didn't respond. The call ended. I set the phone on the nightstand. The room felt heavier. Not painful, not emotional. Just heavy. Like a door had finally closed after years of being half open. I wasn't angry. I wasn't sad. Mostly, I felt tired. Family envy always takes something out of you, even when you expect it. A few minutes passed. The phone buzzed again. 5 missed calls. All Martha. Then a string of texts. "You owe me. You stole that money from our family. You're disgusting. Answer me. I'll get a lawyer." I blocked her number. Silence returned. This time, deeper. I leaned back against the pillows and stared at the ceiling. David wanted access. Nora wanted control. Now Martha wanted a cut. 3 attacks in less than 24 hours. Henry's trust wasn't just money. It was a mirror, showing every flaw, every greed, every weakness in the people around me. And for the first time, I understood why he hid it. I whispered into the empty room, "Henry, you saw all of this coming." I wasn't alone, but I was isolated, cut from my son, cut from my sister, cut from every person who wanted something from me. But isolation wasn't the worst thing. It was clarity. And clarity was finally on my side. Only justice remained. Julian called the next morning before the sun came up. "Helen, we need to meet," he instructed. "Now." His tone didn't leave room for questions. I grabbed my coat, tucked Henry's silver card into my pocket, and walked to the address he texted. A private office inside a quiet commercial building. When I arrived, Julian was already standing by the conference table, folders stacked like evidence. He gestured to the chair. "Sit. There's a lot." I sat. "Start." Julian opened the first file with a firm motion. "Your son didn't stumble into this. He planned it." My jaw tightened. "He hired someone 3 months before the divorce mess began," Julian continued. "A private investigator. They weren't looking at you for safety. They were looking for assets." "Did they find anything?" My tone stayed flat. "They found your father-in-law's old land sale. They found the developer. They traced the profit-sharing agreement. They followed the trail until it disappeared into the trust." "Because Henry hid it." "Correct." Julian tapped the next document. "Once David realized the trust existed, but he couldn't access it, he changed strategy." "How?" "Manipulation," Julian replied. "He needed you financially desperate, emotionally weak, dependent." I didn't react. "So he tightened control," Julian continued, "pressured you, pushed you out of the house, encouraged Nora to take the lead." "That matches exactly what happened," I noted. Julian handed me another document. "This is the bank's recording. David calling the trust department." I listened. David's voice filled the room, shaky but calculated. "Mom's not herself. She forgets things. She's overwhelmed. I'm helping her. I need to update her emergency contact for her own good." My own son, using my name like a tool. Julian watched my expression. I didn't give him anything. He continued, "We compared the phone call to the breach attempt. 30 minutes apart. Same objective. Same target. Nora was the one who actually entered my data." Julian nodded. "She signed the rental contract for the office. She used her device, her IP, her access point. David provided the personal info. So they worked together." "They did." Julian opened another file. And this is worse. He laid out printed screenshots, financial planning notes, budget sketches, projected, shared accounts, all in Nora's handwriting. "They prepared for the money," Julian added. "Before knowing the amount, before knowing the exact account. They were ready the moment they found an opening." A slow breath left my lungs. "They thought the trust would crack." "They underestimated Henry," Julian replied, "and they underestimated you." He wasn't wrong. Julian pushed another document across the table. "This is the breach report. The bank automatically generated it when Nora tried accessing the system. I skimmed it. Unauthorized login attempt. Flag level, high alert. Identity used, Helen Marston. Location, Haledale Suite 307. Everything was clean, everything documented." "Do you want to press charges?" Julian asked. "Not yet." Julian nodded once, not surprised. "You're not the revenge type. I'm the truth type." He paused, then opened the final folder, the thickest. "This," he said, "is the full picture." Inside were phone records, screenshots, financial receipts, surveillance timestamps, metadata, contracts, email drafts, everything connecting David and Nora's actions. Julian leaned back. "They tried to build a case that you were mentally incompetent, that they were entitled to handle your affairs, to take what wasn't theirs." "Yes." I folded my hands on the table. "Show me the part where they tried to trap me." Julian pulled out a yellow legal pad. "In the investigator's notes, Nora encouraged David to distance you from shared accounts, to pressure you, to create isolation, to push the image of instability." "A reputation campaign." "Exactly." I nodded slowly. "They wanted me cornered." Julian studied me. "That doesn't bother you?" "It tells me who I raised," I replied, "and who he married." Julian's voice lowered. "Helen, this is deliberate exploitation. These aren't small decisions. These are coordinated acts." "Yes. Most people would be devastated." "I'm not most people." Julian let out a quiet breath. Not pity, respect. After a moment, he asked, "What do you want to do?" I looked at the file again, at the timeline, at the proof, at the pieces of betrayal laid out in perfect order. "Nothing yet." Julian tilted his head. "Explain." "I don't need revenge." My tone remained flat, clean. "I need distance. And the trust protects you from them. It protects me from their intentions." Julian nodded. "Then understand something important, Helen." I raised an eyebrow. "You didn't beat them," he said. "They beat themselves." That line hit hard, not emotionally, but logically. He continued, "All you did was hold your boundary. They crossed every line to reach something that never belonged to them. Accurate." He closed the last folder. "This is the legal truth. David tried to break the trust. Nora orchestrated the access attempts. They failed. And now everything is documented." I leaned back, calm as stone. "So the damage is theirs." "Yes," Julian replied. "And the consequences are theirs too." I didn't speak for several seconds. Then finally, I stood. "Julian." "Yes?" "Prepare the paperwork, all of it." "Freezing contacts?" "Yes." "Blocking inquiries?" "Yes." "And what about David?" I met his eyes, cold, resolved, clear. "He made his choice." "And Nora?" "She made his choice worse." Julian nodded once. "And you?" he asked. "I'm done reacting," I answered. "Now I act." The meeting ended. As I left the building, the morning sun hit the silver card in my pocket. Not comfort, not emotion, just clarity. And justice, quiet, deliberate justice, was finally in motion. Julian worked fast. By the end of the day, every inquiry on the trust was locked. Every outside attempt was frozen. Every communication from David or Nora was rerouted directly to him. My phone went silent for the first time in weeks. I checked into a small extended-stay apartment. Clean kitchen, simple furniture, quiet hallways. Nothing fancy, nothing loud, exactly what I needed. That night, Julian called. "It's done, Helen. You're fully protected." "I know." "And the evidence?" "Filed, anonymous, secure." He paused. "Do you want notification if they're investigated?" "No," I replied. "Let the system handle them. I don't need updates." Julian understood. "Then this chapter is over." Almost. 3 days later, the news broke. Riverside Realty investigated for fraud. Multiple families claim hidden structural damage. Officials reviewing improper access attempts at financial institutions. David's company was listed. Nora's signature sat under half the paperwork. Their photos flashed across local channels. Reporters crowded their driveway. Microphones pushed into their faces. I watched the footage from my quiet apartment. David looked lost. Nora looked furious. Two people who built their world on shortcuts finally held still. I turned the TV off. Not satisfaction, not revenge, just completion. A week later, David found me anyway. He showed up at a quiet cafe on Oak Ridge Avenue. No yelling this time. No red face. No demands. Just a man who finally realized he'd burned the only bridge that mattered. He sat across from me, hands shaking. "Mom," he started, voice low. "I need help." I folded my hands on the table. "With what?" "My accounts are frozen. The investigation, it's bad. We could lose everything." "We?" he swallowed. "I mean, Nora and me." I looked at him, his shoulders hunched, his eyes dull. "What do you want from me?" "I want a chance," he whispered. "A way out. Alone. Something." "No." His breath caught. "Mom, I'm not rescuing you from your choices." He looked down. I didn't mean for any of this." "You did," I corrected. "You meant every step you took. You thought consequences were for other people." He flinched. "That trust wasn't yours," I continued. "You knew it. Nora knew it. But greed makes people deaf." His voice cracked. "I was scared." "You were greedy," I replied. "Scared came later." He nodded slowly. Acceptance. Late, but real. "Mom, I'm sorry." "I hear you," I replied. "But I don't trust you." He swallowed hard. "So what happens now?" "You rebuild," I answered. "I already rebuilt mine." He wiped his face with his sleeve. "I don't know if I can." "You can," I said. "You just won't like the work." He looked at me as if hoping for a miracle. I stood. "Goodbye, David." His voice chased after me, soft, broken. "Mom, please." I didn't turn. Some endings don't need more words. 6 months passed. My days found rhythm again. Coffee on the small balcony, light through the blinds, walks at sunrise, peace, space, quiet. I formed the foundation 2 months after the confrontation, the New Horizons Foundation. Henry's name attached to every document. We funded temporary housing for women thrown out by their own families, paid for legal fees, helped rebuild credit, helped restart lives. The first woman who walked through our door wore the same lost look I'd carried at the motel. By her second week, she was smiling. By the third, working. By the fourth, stable. Real impact. Real change. Henry would have approved. On a warm spring morning, I drove to the cemetery with a bouquet of white lilies. Henry liked lilies. Not because they were pretty, because they lasted longer than roses. I walked across the grass to his headstone. Simple, clean, just his name and dates. I knelt beside it. "Henry?" I murmured. "It's done." A breeze moved through the branches overhead. "You were right," I continued. "About everything. About the trust. About the risk. About our son." My fingers brushed the cold stone. "I'm safe because of you. I'm free because of you." I placed the lilies at the base of the marker. "I didn't destroy anyone," I added. "I didn't need to. They did that to themselves." Silence settled. Not heavy, not sad, just peaceful. "You always said protection mattered more than comfort," I whispered. "Now I understand." I stood, breathing in slowly. "You gave me freedom, Henry, not fortune. Freedom." 2 weeks later, the foundation held its first Henry Marston Legacy Grant ceremony. 10 women, 10 different stories, 10 new beginnings. I handed each woman an envelope. "Use it well," I told them, "and when life gives you room to help someone else, do it." They nodded, eyes bright. A photographer took a group photo. Flash, smiles, tears, strength. When the ceremony ended, I walked to the tall windows at the back of the hall. The city lights glowed outside. Months ago, I'd stood alone in a motel with $48 to my name. Now I stood here, steady, clear, capable, because Henry had built a future that outlived him, because I chose justice instead of revenge, action instead of anger, purpose instead of bitterness. I touched the silver card one last time, now stored inside my wallet, not as money, but as a reminder. Then the closing line came to me, Simple, steady, true. I am Helen Marston, wife of Henry Marston, and I finally understand what freedom means. I stood at my window that evening, watching the quiet lights of the city. For the first time in a long time, my life wasn't defined by fear or loss or what someone took from me. It was defined by what I chose to build and who I chose to become. Henry once told me, "Freedom shows up when you stop running." He was right. I stopped running, and I finally lived. If you're listening to this, thank you for staying with me through my story. I know many of you carry your own battles, your own storms, your own heartbreak, but I hope my journey reminds you of one thing. You are allowed to start again. You are allowed to choose yourself, and you are allowed to walk toward a better life at any age. If you enjoyed this story, feel free to subscribe or come back for another one. Your support helps keep these stories alive. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Take care of yourself, and I'll meet you in the next video right here on Grandma Life Stories.